What happens when a secret romance transforms into a corporate merger? When the woman who hid her relationship for years suddenly appears on official documents as CEO of her partner's company. On a Tuesday morning that seemed like any other, Su Kai's agency released a statement that would rewrite the rules of celebrity relationships in China. Tan Songyun was not just his girlfriend, not just his fiancée. She was now, officially and legally, the chief executive officer of his entertainment empire. And with that announcement, the careful separation between love and business collapsed entirely. The statement from Su Kai's agency was brief, almost sterile in its corporate language. It announced organizational restructuring, new leadership appointments, strategic direction. Buried in the third paragraph was the line that would ignite a firestorm. Tan Songyun had been appointed CEO effective immediately, with full authority over all business operations for Su Kai's production company. The internet exploded within minutes, not with congratulations, but with confusion bordering on disbelief. This was unprecedented. In an industry where relationships are carefully hidden, the idea of one celebrity taking formal control of another's business empire was unthinkable. It violated every unwritten rule, challenged the fundamental structure of how celebrity is manufactured. But to understand why this moment carried such explosive weight, we must understand what led to it. The story begins years earlier, in the complicated dance of two people trying to build something real while navigating an industry designed to prevent exactly that. Su Kai's production company had been his attempt at independence, a way to gain control over projects he chose, roles he played, the narrative of his career. Owning your own company represents the ultimate autonomy. It meant freedom. It meant power. It meant never again being at the mercy of producers who saw him as interchangeable. He had built it carefully, project by project. Started small, gradually expanding to producing, then to full creative control. It was his kingdom, his legacy in the making. And according to the official story, he ran it alone, with hired executives but no personal entanglements that might complicate the corporate image. The official story was a lie. Those close to the company had known for years that Tan Songyun was involved in virtually every major decision. She attended strategy meetings. She reviewed scripts. She offered opinions on casting, on marketing, on the million choices that determine success or failure. But she did this invisibly, her contributions unacknowledged, her influence unrecorded. She was the ghost in the machine, the unofficial partner whose intelligence shaped everything while receiving none of the credit. It was an arrangement born of necessity. They could not publicly acknowledge her role without acknowledging their relationship. And acknowledging their relationship meant inviting scrutiny that could destroy both careers. So she worked in shadows, offering counsel in private conversations, wielding power without title or recognition. Until something changed, until the pretense became unbearable. The decision to make Tan Songyun CEO was not sudden. Those with access describe months of discussion, of legal consultation, of weighing risks against the suffocating cost of continued secrecy. Su Kai had reached a breaking point. The woman who had been instrumental in building his company deserved recognition, deserved authority, deserved to be acknowledged not as hidden advisor, but as true partner. But making that acknowledgement meant shattering the careful fiction they had maintained. It meant admitting their relationship was deeply integrated into their professional lives. It meant trusting that the public would accept a level of intertwining that violated every norm. The legal paperwork was filed 3 weeks before the public announcement. Tan Songyun's name appeared on corporate documents, her signature on contracts, her authority legally binding. And for those 3 weeks, a small group held one of the most explosive secrets in Chinese entertainment. The announcement was timed carefully. Released on Tuesday morning, after the weekend, but before major entertainment stories had taken shape. The language was deliberately dry, bureaucratic, designed to present the change as routine rather than revolutionary. But no amount of careful messaging could contain the reaction. Within hours, the story dominated every entertainment platform. Financial analysts struggled to make sense of the implications. Fans divided into camps. Some celebrated the boldness. Others expressed concern about mixing romance with business. The criticism came in waves. Some argued nepotism had corrupted merit, that the appointment was favoritism rather than qualification. Others worried about what would happen if the relationship ended. Still others saw it as reckless exposure of private matters. But these criticisms revealed fundamental misunderstanding. This was not Su Kai handing his company to his girlfriend as romantic gesture. This was formal recognition of a partnership that had existed informally for years. Tan Songyun had been doing the work of CEO without the title, wielding influence without acknowledgement, bearing responsibility without authority. The announcement did not change reality. It simply made that reality visible. And visibility was the point. 3 days after the announcement, Tan Songyun gave her first interview as CEO. She sat in the conference room surrounded by posters from projects she had helped shape, but never been credited for, and spoke with directness that had been impossible when maintaining fiction. She talked about years of hiding, of offering opinions presented as coming from nameless consultants. She described the exhaustion of maintaining 2 separate identities, professional advisor and romantic partner, as if these could be kept in separate containers. She explained the appointment was not a gift, but acknowledgement of work already being done. But what resonated most powerfully was what she said about partnership. She spoke of her belief that love and work do not need to be separated, that the skills that make someone a good partner are the same skills that make for good business collaboration. She challenged the assumption that mixing romance and business was inherently dangerous.
She looked at her mother.
She was rewriting the narrative in real time, transforming what could have been scandal into statement about modern partnership, about equality, about the right of couples to integrate their lives in ways that made sense to them.
Not with the breathless
The response shifted, slowly at first, then with gathering momentum. Other women in the industry began speaking about their own invisible contributions to partners, careers, their uncredited work, their unacknowledged influence. The conversation expanded beyond Sukai and Tan Songyun to encompass larger questions about how relationships function in public life. Financial analysts who initially questioned the appointment began examining the company's actual performance under Tan Songyun's unofficial influence. The numbers told a compelling story. Projects she had been involved with performed better both critically and commercially. Her instincts proved consistently sound. The appointment began to look less like nepotism and more like correction of previous injustice. Perhaps most surprisingly, other celebrity-owned companies began following suit. Within months, 3 other high-profile actors announced similar arrangements, bringing romantic partners into official leadership positions. The dam had broken. Sukai and Tan Songyun had created permission for others to stop hiding. Tan Songyun's first major decision as official CEO came 6 weeks after her appointment. The company had been offered a lucrative deal to produce a formulaic romantic drama, the kind of safe project that generates reliable returns. She turned it down. Instead, she greenlit a risky experimental project, a psychological thriller with unconventional structure and no guarantee of success. The project became one of the most critically acclaimed productions of the year. It won awards, launched careers, established the company as a place where creative risks were valued, and it proved that Tan Songyun's authority was not ceremonial. Sukai, in interviews about the decision, was asked how it felt to have someone else making consequential choices about his company. His answer was revealing. He said he had never thought of it as his company, that from earliest days it had been shared vision. Making Tan Songyun CEO was not giving away control, but finally documenting the reality of how decisions had always been made. 1 year after the announcement, the company had grown substantially. Revenue increased. The project portfolio diversified. Industry respect deepened. Tan Songyun had proven herself not just competent but exceptional. More significantly, the cultural impact continued to ripple outward. The rigid separation between personal and professional in Chinese entertainment had begun to erode. Couples were more open about relationships. Women were more likely to be acknowledged for behind-the-scenes contributions. But perhaps the deepest change was in how Sukai and Tan Songyun themselves moved through the world. They no longer performed separation at public events. They arrived together, acknowledged each other openly. They had stopped pretending, and in that liberation, they had found freedom that no amount of career success could have provided. The agency's statement that started it all remains remarkable for its brevity. But in retrospect, what seems most striking is not what it said, but what it represented. A choice to value truth over image. A willingness to risk everything built on careful management for the possibility of something more authentic. When Tan Songyun became CEO, she did not just take on a title. She became a symbol of what happens when people refuse to accept artificial boundaries that systems impose. When they insist on integration rather than compartmentalization. When they build partnerships that honor both love and ambition. The cameras are still watching. The scrutiny has not diminished, but they navigate it together as partners in every sense, and in doing so they have created a model that others are beginning to follow. The revolution was not announced with fanfare. It came disguised as corporate restructuring, hidden in dry business language. But revolutions often work that way, slipping past defenses because they look like something familiar until the moment they transform everything. Songyun is CEO, not despite being Sukai's partner, but as the natural extension of a partnership that had always existed. And in that simple fact lies a truth the entertainment industry is still struggling to comprehend. That love and work can strengthen rather than undermine each other. That transparency might be less dangerous than secrecy. That the future belongs to those willing to build it, regardless of what old rules insisted was possible.